Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this podcast and YouTube series where I talk about everything movies, series, and basically anything that I want to talk about. I'm your host, Elton. You're listening to Elton Talks, and in this episode, we are going to be discussing about the Marvel Cinematic Universe's first Disney Plus series, WandaVision. Okay, so before we get started with the review itself, I'd like to address the insane COVID crisis going on in the nation. All we can do is maintain the precautions and please do double mask up, sanitize frequently, and maintain physical distancing. If you want a normalized tomorrow, you need to follow the precautions today. Ask everyone around you to follow the precautions and stay safe. Okay, so let's discuss WandaVision. Wanda has been my favorite MCU character ever since I started watching the MCU. I got to know about the MCU around the time of promotions for Infinity War. I had watched few movies without knowing they were part of this greater universe, but getting to know all these characters just before Infinity War and seeing Wanda unleash that amount of power in Infinity War and later in Endgame has made her a character that I love in the Marvel universe. And I have a strange liking for mystic class characters, Doctor Strange, Magic from the New Mutants, Raven from DC's Teen Titan, and of course Wanda as I just mentioned. I don't know why, but I love these characters a lot. So when WandaVision was first announced, I was actually nervous what they were going to do. And when news started coming out that it's going to be sitcoms and stuff, I started to realize, okay, I think I understand what they're trying to do. So there was this story arc in the comics called House of M that was a fallout and lead into other big comic arc. So House of M in itself is a very big comic arc. So what happens is basically Wanda gets to know that her twins are not real. She ends up rewriting reality. The Avengers, Magneto all come to face off against her. She utters this insane three words that changes reality forever. No more mutants. Just by uttering these three words, she erases all of mutant kind on the surface of Earth, and ever since then, mutants have been very low in the Marvel comics. It's only when Avengers vs. X-Men, mutants started to come up again. Wanda was so powerful that she literally erased everything on the face of the earth. So I began to understand they are going for Wanda's grief, the same element. When the trailer started dropping, we started to get a better idea of what this series is going to be. They were certainly taking inspiration from this comic arc but not adapting it, and it would be impossible considering there are no mutants in the MCU. Talking about the feel of the series, WandaVision is definitely a superhero genre series, but I would say there is mystery, there's thriller, there's horror, there's action, there's role playing. I would rather say it's an amalgamation between the superhero and mystery horror thriller genre because it just exceeds superhero genre. At the end of the day, it's about the Scarlet Witch. It is superhero genre, but the storytelling is much more than that. In the very first two episodes, you're able to care for these characters, you're able to relate to these two characters. Also, the first two episodes were in black and white, and I'm a 21st century kid. I've not lived through the 1950s, 1960s, and I've not watched many films from the 1950s and 60s, but I do know that restraint that Elizabeth Olsen brought to her character was something that the actors had very common during that time. It was enough to make me nostalgic about that time period. Another accomplishment I would say is bringing in two established Avengers, giving them characteristics pertaining to this time period that they are trying to show on screen, and the fact that Paul Bettany, Elizabeth Olsen, and Catherine Hahn were able to add these characteristics to the already established main characters and make them feel like they are in this reality under the control of something says a lot about their acting skills. Moving on, we are going to be talking about the character and story arcs. I feel Wanda Maximoff as a character has gotten the most out of the series. From where we see her timeline wise, she starts out after the Battle of Endgame. She finds Vision, he's being used, there's nothing she can do about it. She unleashes her grief, she doesn't know what's happening at first, then she realizes that it's all her doing and she plays along because this is the reality she wanted to live. But then she realizes that it's hurting other people, she has to give it up, she gives it up. But the most constructive thing they have done through the series for Wanda is giving that final goodbye with Vision. She was never able to say a final goodbye to Quicksilver. She was not able to do it for Vision. It was in the heat of battle in Infinity War. So to be able to give that personal, emotional moment for Wanda and Vision together, for her to be able to cope with that grief was very important for her to be able to move on. So character-wise, I think Wanda has gotten the most out of the series. The next character is Vision. He is not entirely real. He's a construct of the Hex, but he seemed to have the real Vision's emotions and feelings. Overall, his character was more of a supporting role to make Wanda realize that this is wrong, giving the audience that exposure. And there's also the scene where he gives White Vision all his memories, so that could be a starting point, an origin for a new version of Vision. Whether he meets Wanda in the future or he goes and does his own thing with the West Coast Avengers is up to see. Next up is Monica Rambeau, and this is the most beautiful part of the MCU because we get to see a character from a different franchise, from a different time period. We get to see her fully grown and formed up, but we know it's the same character, and giving her a parallel story arc to Wanda was really well done. She lost her mother, she didn't get to say a final goodbye. She knew what it was to lose someone that was close to her, and maybe her association with Carol Danvers made her realize how hard this superhero life can be, and thus she was among the very few who understood and tried to support Wanda during her journey. And of course she gets a pass, so this is an origin story for her as well. And then there are characters like Agatha Harkness, Jimmy Woo, Darcy Lewis, and also Hayward. So these characters don't have a very transformative character arc to speak of, but they are very integral to the story, especially Agatha Harkness. She was the one who made Wanda realize and come out of this reality. Though being the villain, she was the one who made Wanda the Scarlet Witch, who made her aware of her past. So that being said, very important characters but not very transformative story arcs, and I would love to see Agatha again in the MCU. Okay, now moving on to our next segment, I'm going to be talking about the episodes. I ranked these episodes in order of my most favorite to least favorite. I'll certainly add my favorite. So let's start off. Episode 8 was my most favorite episode. Episode 5 comes very close. Episode 5 on a very special episode managed to pack in a lot of story and emotions, and being the middle of the series, 4 episodes behind it, 4 episodes after it, was a perfect middle episode. Episode 8 showed us a lot of flashbacks, gave us a lot of origins for the Scarlet Witch, so episode 8 is my most favorite episode. Coming in third is the series finale, episode 9, where Wanda Maximoff finally becomes the Scarlet Witch in the MCU. The reason this is not ranking just on my most favorite episodes is 2 episodes have done all the job that this episode requires to make it feel good, and moreover we had a lot of expectations. Mephisto reveal, a Doctor Strange cameo, a MCU Quicksilver cameo and stuff like that. Forgot what the show was actually about. It was giving a satisfying origin for the Scarlet Witch while dealing with Wanda's grief, and also setting up future story arcs for all the other characters in the show. Episode 9 is a great episode and I love that background music. Okay, so coming in at 4 is episode 3, because that was the episode where we transformed from just the sitcom to actually getting into real stuff. And following that would be episode 6, the Halloween episode. Vision tries to get out of the hex and disintegrates. That was so beautifully done. It created a sense of horror, and I'm sure many people would have cried looking at Vision die once more in the MCU. Not to forget, Pietro's weird comments during this entire episode were enough to add to the Halloween feel of this episode. And also Billy and Tommy, Wiccan and Speed get their powers in this episode. So yeah, going forward, episode 7, Monica Rambeau gets a power, and also Agatha reveals that she's been behind all of this all along. It was Agatha all along. And following that would be episode 1 and 2. They are very great. I would like to place it more higher, but the other episodes just have something or the other. Like episode 7 is a dull episode. It has a lot, it builds up to something, but it's comparatively a dull episode. Obviously then ranking last would be episode 4, though it gives us a real inside look at what is actually happening. It comes in last for me. This is just my ranking. I'm sure you have different rankings. Please do let me know in the comments down below. And so I'm going to be posting another video detailing each of my favorite episodes. That will be part 2 of this WandaVision discussion, so please make sure you check out that video as well. If you like this video, please do like, subscribe, share, and I'm open to suggestions. So anything you'd like me to improve or change, I'm open to it. Please do leave your thoughts down below. Have a good day, stay safe, love you 3000.